The Mask of Diplomacy. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council stretched before Mark Reker like a cathedral built for giants. Crystalline pillars rose hundreds of meters into the darkness above, their surfaces refracting the soft bioluminescent light that pulsed through the alien architecture. The air hummed with the subtle vibrations of countless life support systems, each tailored to maintain the precise atmospheric conditions needed by the diverse species gathered here. Mark stood at the center of it all, Earth's appointed diplomat, though that title masked a far deadlier truth. Around him, beings of various shapes and sizes occupied their designated spaces in the tiered seating that rose like an amphitheater. Some floated in containment fields, others were suspended in specialized environmental chambers, and a few existed as pure energy patterns held within quantum matrices. To his right, positioned with calculated dominance, sat Yaris, the leader of the Darrow Empire. His indigo scales caught the light, creating an intimidating display of natural armor. The crown of ridge bone that ran along his head marked him as a prime specimen of his species, and his presence commanded attention from every being in the chamber. Mark maintained his composure, though his mind worked with military precision, cataloging every detail, every potential threat, and every possible escape route. His training as Earth's most elite covert operative had prepared him for moments like these, where the line between diplomacy and assassination blurred into a dangerous dance. So, this. Earth, Yaris's voice resonated through the chamber, the word dripping with contempt. You humans insist on representation in matters of the Empire's concern, yet bring neither the technology nor wisdom to contribute meaningfully. I ask, what can your species, bound to a single planet, offer the Council? The question hung in the air like a blade, and Mark felt the weight of countless alien gazes upon him. He had endured similar provocations before, but today felt different. The hostility was palpable, far beyond the usual indifference that Earth's representatives faced in these gatherings. Mark's response came with practiced ease, his voice steady and clear. It's true, Yaris, we may be newcomers to the galactic stage, but Earth has much to offer. Our perspective is unique, our adaptability. A hissing laugh cut through his words as Yaris leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over Mark. Adaptability? Resilience? I have witnessed humans perish on the Council's training grounds, crushed by forces they couldn't even comprehend. Resilient, yes, like an insect squirming underfoot. The chamber erupted in cruel laughter, but Mark's expression remained unchanged. Behind his diplomatic facade, his mind was already working through scenarios, analyzing weaknesses in Yaris's security detail, noting the slight favoring of the Darrow leader's left side, an old injury, perhaps. As the laughter died down, Mark allowed himself a small, enigmatic smile. If resilience were measured by lifespan alone, then perhaps yes, Earth would fall short. But we've adapted, learned to thrive even in hostile environments. We've done a lot with the little time we have. The rest of the Council session proceeded with similar exchanges, each barb carefully calculated, each response measured. But beneath Mark's calm exterior, plans were forming. His true mission, known only to a select few back on Earth, was taking shape. Intelligence reports had identified Yaris as more than just an arrogant council member. The Darrow leader was actively working to undermine Earth's position in galactic affairs, potentially preparing for something far more sinister than mere political maneuvering. As the session drew to a close, Mark observed Yaris's security detail with practiced nonchalance. 6 Morgan warriors, their cybernetically enhanced bodies housing enough firepower to level a small city. 2 quantum phase shifters, capable of predicting and countering physical attacks before they happened. And somewhere, hidden from obvious view, would be the Shade Assassins, the Darrow Empire's infamous invisible guardians. But Mark had something none of them expected, the element of complete underestimation. To them, he was just another human diplomat, barely worth the effort of proper surveillance. This perception was his greatest weapon, carefully cultivated over years of maintaining his cover. Back in his quarters that evening, Mark activated his secure communication channel with Earth. The quantum encrypted message would take hours to reach its destination, bouncing through a complex network of relay points to avoid detection. Initial assessment complete, he reported in coded language. Target shows signs of previous injury. Security measures significant but not impenetrable. Request permission to proceed with Phase 1 of Operation Shadow Fall. As he waited for a response, Mark began his nightly routine of exercises designed specifically for high-gravity combat. Each movement was precisely calculated, combining techniques from dozens of martial arts forms with modifications for alien physiologies. The next few days would require perfect timing and execution. One wrong move, one slip in his diplomatic persona, and not only would his mission fail, but Earth's position in the galactic community could be irreparably damaged. But Mark had been preparing for this moment his entire career. Every diplomatic mission, every council meeting, every carefully crafted interaction had been leading to this. The Duro Empire was planning something that threatened Earth's future, and Yari's was the key to uncovering and stopping whatever was coming. As he completed his exercises, Mark's communicator chimed softly. The response from Earth had arrived faster than expected. As he decoded the message, a grim smile crossed his face. The authorization was clear. Operation Shadow Fall is go. You have full autonomy. Remember, for the good of Earth, this must look like natural causes. The galaxy must never know that humans are capable of such actions. Good hunting, Diplomat Reker. The pieces were in place. The game was about to begin, and Mark Reker, Earth's deadliest operative, was ready to show the galaxy just how dangerous an underestimated species could be. Shadows of Intent. The artificial night cycle of the Galactic Council station cast long shadows through the crystalline corridors. Mark Reker moved through them with practiced ease, his footsteps silent against the polished floor. To any surveillance systems, he appeared to be taking a casual evening walk, a habit he had carefully established over the past months. In reality, each step was precisely calculated, each turn deliberately chosen to establish his alibi. The station's environmental systems hummed at a different frequency during the night cycle, masking the subtle sounds of movement. Mark had memorized these patterns, just as he had memorized the patrol routes of the station's security forces. Tonight, he wasn't heading to his usual destinations. Instead, he was pursuing a lead that his handler on Earth had just transmitted, a potential weak point in Yari's seemingly impenetrable armor. As he rounded a corner, Mark caught a glimpse of his reflection in the polished walls. His diplomatic uniform, perfectly pressed and immaculate, concealed a network of advanced tech woven into its fabric. The clothing was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, capable of adapting to various atmospheric conditions while housing an array of tools that could bypass most security scans. A group of Morgan guards approached, their cybernetic enhancements gleaming dully in the low light. Mark nodded respectfully, maintaining his diplomatic persona. "Evening, gentlemen. Beautiful cycle, isn't it?" The guards barely acknowledged him, exactly as he had predicted. Humans were considered so harmless that even the station's elite security forces had grown lazy in their surveillance. This was precisely the kind of complacency Mark had been cultivating. Once alone again, Mark accessed his neural implant, reviewing the intelligence that had prompted tonight's excursion. According to the data, Yari's maintained a private sanctuary on the station's lower levels, a place where he conducted his most sensitive business away from the prying eyes of the council. Mark's target tonight wasn't Yari's himself, but rather information. Intelligence suggested that the Duro leader was preparing to present evidence to the council that would severely compromise Earth's position in galactic affairs. The nature of this evidence was unknown, but given Yari's recent behavior, Mark suspected it was fabricated, a carefully constructed lie designed to push humanity further into isolation. As he descended to the lower levels, the architecture changed subtly. The crystalline surfaces gave way to older, more utilitarian materials. This section of the station dated back to its original construction, before the more ornate additions of later centuries. A soft chime in his neural implant warned him of approaching life forms. Mark smoothly altered his course, stepping into an alcove as a pair of shade assassins glided past. Their partially phased forms were nearly invisible to normal sight, but the enhanced sensors in Mark's diplomatic uniform detected their energy signatures. Once they passed, Mark continued his journey, now moving with increased caution. The presence of shade assassins confirmed he was on the right track. Yaris would only deploy his elite guards to protect something valuable. Using a series of maintenance access ways that he had previously mapped, Mark made his way to a section of the station that officially didn't exist. Here, the air was different, heavier with the specific atmospheric mix preferred by the Darrow species. Mark's uniform automatically adjusted, filtering the air to human-compatible levels without producing any detectable energy signature. The security around Yaris's sanctuary was impressive but not impenetrable. Mark had spent weeks analyzing it through various means, careful observation, accidentally lost maintenance drones, and the occasional well-placed question to the right station personnel. The outer door was protected by a quantum-locked security system, practically impossible to hack through conventional means. But Mark wasn't planning to hack it. Instead, he retrieved a small device from a hidden compartment in his uniform. The device, developed by Earth's best scientists, didn't try to break the quantum lock, it simply created a temporary probability field where the door existed in both locked and unlocked states simultaneously. Mark had exactly 2.3 seconds to slip through before the probability field collapsed. He moved with fluid precision, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to slide through the momentary gap without triggering any alerts. Inside, the sanctuary was a study in alien opulence. The walls were lined with living crystal, pulsing with patterns that would have been hypnotic to anyone without Mark's specialized training. The air was thick with the scent of exotic compounds, some of which his sensors identified as highly toxic to most species. Moving silently through the chambers, Mark located what appeared to be Yaris's private study. Here, the security was even more intense, but also more traditional. Traditional security measures meant traditional weaknesses. As he worked to access Yaris's private terminal, Mark's neural implant suddenly flashed a warning. Something was wrong. The security patterns had shifted, becoming more erratic. This wasn't a random variation, this was an active response to an intruder. Mark's fingers flew over the terminal's interface, trying to extract what data he could before the inevitable confrontation. His neural implant began downloading everything it could access, encrypting the data with quantum algorithms that even the most advanced alien AI would take centuries to crack. The first sign of real trouble came as a subtle change in air pressure. Mark's training kicked in instantly, and he dropped to the floor just as a wave of energy passed through the space where he had been standing. The shade assassin materialized fully, its form shifting from invisible to a swirling mass of darkness. Human, the assassin's voice was like crystal scratching against metal, you are far from your assigned quarters. Mark rose slowly, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender that also happened to position them near his concealed weapons. My deepest apologies, he said, his voice carrying just the right mix of confusion and embarrassment. I appear to have gotten lost while searching for the meditation chambers. The station's layout can be so confusing during the night cycle. The shade assassin moved closer, its form rippling with barely contained lethal intent. The meditation chambers are 10 levels above. This area is restricted. Oh dear, Mark continued his act, while his neural implant finished its download. This is terribly embarrassing. I don't suppose you could guide me back. I would hate to disturb anyone else with my foolishness. The assassin's form solidified further, a sign that it was preparing to strike. Protocol dictates that all intruders must be. The rest of its statement was cut off as Mark activated one of his uniform's hidden features. A burst of precisely calibrated electromagnetic energy disrupted the assassin's phase-shifting abilities, momentarily trapping it in solid form. In that instant, Mark struck with a neural disruptor, a weapon specifically designed to incapacitate shade assassins without killing them. The assassin collapsed, its form dissolving into a puddle of inert nanites. The incapacitation would only last minutes, but that was all Mark needed. He quickly accessed the assassin's neural network, planting false memories of a routine patrol where nothing unusual had occurred. As he made his way back through the station's corridors, Mark's mind was already analyzing the data he had stolen. The encrypted files would take time to decode, but preliminary scans suggested they contained exactly what he had been looking for, evidence of Yaris's true plans for Earth. But something else was bothering him. The security response had been too quick, too precise. Either his cover wasn't as solid as he had thought, or someone else was watching Yaris's sanctuary. Either way, the game had become more complicated. Back in his quarters, Mark initiated contact with Earth using a new encryption protocol. As he waited for the connection, he reviewed the night's events. He had achieved his primary objective, but in doing so, he might have revealed that humans were capable of far more than the galaxy suspected. The question now was, who else was moving pieces on this cosmic chessboard, and what would they do with the knowledge that a human had penetrated one of the most secure locations in the galaxy? The enemy within. The quantum-encrypted files from Yaris's sanctuary sprawled across Mark's secure terminal like a digital puzzle. 3 days had passed since his infiltration, and what he discovered sent ice through his veins. The documents revealed far more than just plans to discredit Earth. They exposed a vast conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of the Galactic Council itself. Display sequence Alpha 7, Mark commanded softly. The holographic display shifted, revealing a complex web of connections between various council members and the Darrow Empire. Financial transactions, secret meetings, and encrypted communications painted a disturbing picture. Yaris wasn't working alone. He was part of a coalition of species who saw humanity's rapid advancement as a threat to their established power structure. A soft chime interrupted his analysis. Incoming transmission from Earth Command, Priority 1, his neural implant announced. Mark's quarters automatically engaged additional security measures, creating a bubble of absolute privacy. The holographic face of Admiral Chen materialized before him, her expression grave. Diplomat Reker, the situation has evolved. We've detected unusual movement patterns in the Darrow fleet. Multiple battle groups are conducting exercises near the edge worlds, uncomfortably close to our colonial outposts. Mark's mind raced through the implications. The files I recovered suggest this isn't a coincidence. Yaris has been coordinating with at least 7 other council species. They're planning something big, Admiral. The evidence against Earth they're preparing to present isn't just fabricated, it's a pretext for military action. Explain, Chen's holographic form leaned forward. They're going to accuse Earth of developing illegal quantum weapons, Mark said, bringing up relevant sections of the decoded files. The evidence has been carefully constructed over years. They've even created false readings that suggest quantum anomalies near our colonies. Once presented to the Council, it would give them justification for a preventive intervention. Chen's expression darkened. A coordinated attack on our colonies, disguised as a peacekeeping operation. Clever. The rest of the Council would have to support it, or risk appearing to endorse the development of forbidden weapons. There's more, Mark continued. I've identified a pattern in the data that suggests we have a leak. Someone high up in Earth's diplomatic corps is feeding them information. The evidence they've fabricated is too perfect, too tailored to our vulnerabilities. Do you have a name? Not yet, but I'm close. Whoever it is has access to our highest levels of security clearance. Mark paused, choosing his next words carefully. Admiral, I don't think eliminating Yaris alone will be enough anymore. This conspiracy runs too deep. Agreed. But we can't move openly against the other council members without proof. For now, maintain your cover and continue gathering evidence. I'm authorizing you to expand your operational parameters. Use whatever resources you need, but remember, if you're caught, Earth will deny all knowledge of your activities. The transmission ended, leaving Mark alone with the weight of this new information. He stood, walking to the viewport that overlooked the vast expanse of space. Somewhere out there, Earth's colonies continued their daily routines, unaware of the threat gathering against them. A subtle vibration in his neural implant alerted him to movement in the corridor outside. The pattern matched Morgan's cybernetics, another security patrol. But something was off about their timing. Mark had memorized their schedules, and this patrol was 2 minutes early. He activated his uniform's enhanced sensing capabilities. Through the walls, he could detect 4 Morgan signatures, but there was something else, a 5th signature, carefully masked but detectable to his advanced sensors. Someone was using the patrol as cover to monitor his quarters. Mark smiled grimly. So, they were watching him after all. The question was, who had ordered the surveillance? Yari's security forces, or someone else in this web of conspiracy? He needed to move fast. The evidence against Earth would be presented at the next full council session, just 5 days away. Once that happened, events would spiral beyond anyone's control. He had to identify the human traitor and expose the conspiracy before then. Making sure his actions would be caught on the surveillance, Mark settled into a meditation pose, a habit he had carefully cultivated as part of his diplomatic persona. In reality, his neural implant was accessing the station's secure networks through a series of ghost protocols developed by Earth's best cyber warfare experts. The data streams flowed through his consciousness like rivers of light. Security logs, communication records, travel manifests, everything was there if you knew where to look. He traced the patterns of information flow, looking for the telltale signs of encrypted transmissions between Earth and the conspirators. Hours passed as Mark sifted through the digital debris of countless interactions. Then, almost hidden beneath layers of routine diplomatic traffic, he found it, a series of quantum-encrypted bursts that didn't match any known diplomatic protocols. The source of the transmissions stopped him cold. According to the logs, they originated from Ambassador Sarah Chen's office, Admiral Chen's sister and Earth's senior representative to the Galactic Council. The implications were staggering. If Sarah Chen was the traitor, it meant the conspiracy had reached even further than they'd suspected. She had access to everything: military deployments, colonial defense plans, diplomatic strategies. She could have provided the conspirators with exactly what they needed to make their false evidence completely convincing. But something didn't add up. The transmission patterns were too obvious, too easy to find once you knew where to look. Was Sarah Chen really the traitor, or was she being set up? And if so, by whom? A new alert flashed through his neural implant: movement in the station's diplomatic sector. Sarah Chen's credentials had just been used to access a secure communication room. At 3 a.m. station time, that was definitely suspicious. Mark rose from his meditation pose, his muscles loose and ready for action. He had 2 choices: confront Sarah Chen directly and risk exposing his true role, or continue gathering evidence and risk losing his only chance to uncover the truth. The decision was made for him when his neural implant detected a massive surge of energy building in the station's power grid. Someone had just activated the emergency containment protocols for the diplomatic sector. Sarah Chen's location was about to be sealed off from the rest of the station. Mark moved swiftly to his hidden weapons cache, retrieving equipment that would make most Special Forces operatives jealous. If this was a move to eliminate Sarah Chen before she could expose something, he needed to reach her first. If she was the traitor, he needed to capture her alive for questioning. Either way, the endgame was beginning, and the next few hours would determine not just his fate, but potentially the future of humanity among the stars. Checkmate in the dark. The diplomatic sector's emergency containment fields crackled with purple energy as Mark moved through the maintenance tunnels. His neural implant worked overtime, processing multiple data streams while maintaining his active camouflage. The station's security systems registered him as nothing more than a power fluctuation, a trick that wouldn't fool the more sophisticated sensors for long. Ambassador Sarah Chen's location beacon still showed her in the secure communication room, but the energy readings surrounding it were wrong. Too stable, too perfect. Someone was broadcasting a false signal to mask her real location. Computer, analyze power distribution patterns in diplomatic sector, last 30 minutes, Mark subvocalized. The data flowed through his neural interface, revealing subtle inconsistencies. There, a spike in gravitational compensation 3 levels down, followed by a series of micro-adjustments in the environmental systems. Someone had moved a group of people through the restricted areas, trying to mask their passage. Mark changed direction, heading deeper into the station's core. His enhanced hearing picked up the faint whine of energy weapons being charged, the distinctive sound of Morgan pulse rifles. The station's elite guards were mobilizing, but were they responding to a threat or participating in something more sinister? His neural implant buzzed with an incoming transmission. Diplomat Reker, a familiar voice whispered, heavily encrypted. Secondary Channel 7, Authorization Lambda 90. Mark's breath caught. Lambda 90 was an emergency code known only to Earth's highest-level operatives. He switched channels, maintaining his silent movement through the shadows. This is Reker. Authenticate. Authentication, breaking dawn at Olympus Base. It was Sarah Chen's voice, tense but controlled. Mark, I'm compromised. The evidence against Earth, it's worse than we thought. They're not just planning to discredit us, they're going to use our own defense protocols against us. Location: Maintenance Sector 47B. 3 hostiles on my tail. I've got the proof we need, but, her transmission cut off in a burst of static. Mark's mind raced through the station's layout. Sector 47B was a nexus point between the diplomatic quarter and the main power distribution hub. If he moved fast, he could. A massive explosion rocked the station, the shock wave rippling through the structural supports. Emergency sirens blared as the artificial gravity fluctuated. Mark braced himself against a wall, his uniform automatically adjusting to compensate. Alert, hull breach detected in diplomatic sector, the station's AI announced. Emergency protocols engaged. All personnel proceed to designated safety zones. The explosion wasn't an accident. Someone was creating chaos to cover their tracks. Mark pushed off the wall, moving faster now. Stealth was becoming less critical as the station descended into emergency protocols. He rounded a corner and found 2 Morgan guards sprawled on the deck, their cybernetic systems offline. The damage pattern was distinctive, Earth-designed neural disruptors. Sarah had been through here, and recently. Following her trail, Mark accessed the station's security feeds through his neural implant. The cameras showed confusion everywhere, diplomats being evacuated, security teams rushing to contain the damage, and beneath it all, subtle movements that didn't quite fit the pattern. A shadow caught his attention, a flicker of movement that shouldn't have been there. Mark dropped and rolled just as a beam of concentrated energy sliced through the space where he had been standing. A shade assassin materialized, its form rippling with lethal intent. But this wasn't one of Yaris's guards. The energy signature was different, more refined. This was something else entirely. Impressive reflexes, human, the assassin's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. The stories about you are true after all. Mark's hand moved to his concealed weapons, but the assassin made no aggressive moves. Instead, it shifted into a more solid form, revealing features that made Mark's blood run cold. The being before him was neither Shade nor Morgan, but something that shouldn't exist, a hybrid of multiple species technologies. What are you? Mark demanded, though he was already forming theories, each more disturbing than the last. I am what your kind fears most, the creature replied. The future you're not ready to accept. Did you really think the Darrow Empire was your only concern? That Yaris was the true threat? Understanding dawned. The conspiracy, it's not about Earth at all, is it? The evidence against us, the planned intervention, it's all a distraction. The hybrid being's form rippled with what might have been amusement. Very good, Diplomat Reker. Or should I say, operative Reker. Earth is merely a convenient scapegoat. The chaos of intervening in your colonies will provide perfect cover for something far more significant. The edge worlds, Mark said, the pieces falling into place. The Darrow fleet movements aren't about attacking Earth. They're positioning for something else. The edge worlds hold secrets, human technologies left behind by civilizations that made your most advanced achievements look like children's toys. The Council has kept them contained for millennia, knowing that no single species could be trusted with such power. Mark's neural implant was recording everything, encrypting and transmitting the data back to Earth through hidden channels. And now a group of you plans to seize that power for yourselves. Not for ourselves, the hybrid corrected. For the future of all species. Evolution requires change, requires breaking free from the artificial constraints the Council has placed on development. Sarah Chen understood this. Why do you think she agreed to help us? You're lying, Mark said, but doubt crept in. Had Sarah really betrayed Earth? Or was there another layer to this game he hadn't yet uncovered? The hybrid's form began to fade. Find her if you can, human. She can tell you herself. But remember, you're not the only one hunting her now. The knowledge she carries could unravel everything, and there are those who would rather see her dead than let that happen. With that, the being vanished completely, leaving Mark alone with the implications of its revelations. The station's emergency sirens continued to wail, but they seemed distant now, less important than the wheels turning in his mind. If what the hybrid said was true, then the conspiracy went far beyond a simple plot against Earth. Someone was using the tensions between species, the fear of humanity's rapid advancement, to create a situation where they could move against the edge worlds unopposed. And Sarah Chen was the key to proving it all. Mark's neural implant detected another power surge building in the station's systems. More explosions were coming, designed to create enough chaos to cover whatever endgame was approaching. He needed to find Sarah fast, not just to save her, but to prevent a shift in power that could reshape the galaxy itself. The hunt was on, and time was running out. Dawn of Reckoning. The station's emergency lighting cast alternating patterns of shadow and crimson illumination across the corridors as Mark raced against time. His neural implant tracked multiple threats, more explosions detonating in carefully orchestrated sequences, security teams moving in confused patterns, and somewhere in this chaos, Sarah Chen held the key to exposing a conspiracy that threatened to reshape the galaxy. Through his encrypted channels, Mark received confirmation that Earth's defense forces were mobilizing, responding to what appeared to be imminent aggression from the Darrow fleet. Exactly as the conspirators had planned, everyone was looking in the wrong direction. Warning. Station structural integrity at 70% and declining, the AI announced. All non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately. Mark's sensors detected a familiar energy signature, Sarah's personal shield generator, modified with Earth's most advanced stealth technology. She was close, moving fast through the maintenance tunnels beneath the station's primary power core. As he changed course to intercept her, his neural implant flagged another signal. The hybrid being was tracking her too, along with at least 3 other entities giving off similar impossible energy patterns. They were converging on Sarah's position from multiple directions. Mark accessed the station's engineering schematics, plotting the most direct route. The maintenance tunnels opened into a vast chamber housing the station's quantum core, the massive energy source that powered everything from life support to the artificial gravity. It would be the perfect place for a final confrontation, away from the eyes of the panicking diplomats above. He arrived just as Sarah emerged from a service hatch, her diplomatic uniform torn and scorched. In her hand, she clutched a quantum storage device, presumably containing the evidence she had mentioned. "Stop right there, Sarah," Mark called out, his weapons ready but not yet drawn. "We need to talk about the edge worlds." Sarah froze, then slowly turned to face him. "So, you figured it out. I wondered if you would." Her voice was calm, almost resigned. Did your new hybrid friend fill you in on the details? Some of them. Enough to know that this goes far beyond Earth and the Darrow Empire. What I don't understand is why you're involved. Because humanity needs this, Mark. Sarah's expression was intense, passionate. The Edge worlds don't just contain advanced technology, they contain the truth about our origins, about all of our origins. The Council hasn't been protecting us from that knowledge, they've been controlling us through ignorance. Before Mark could respond, space itself seemed to ripple as multiple hybrid beings phased into existence around them. Their forms shifted and flowed, combining aspects of dozens of species in ways that defied natural law. Ambassador Chen, one of them spoke, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. The device, please. Your role in this is complete. Don't, Mark warned, finally drawing his weapons. Whatever they promised you, Sarah, whatever truth you think they're offering, it's not worth the cost. Sarah's laugh was bitter. The cost? Do you know what I found in those Edge world records, Mark? Humanity isn't some cosmic accident, some primitive species that crawled out of the mud. We're the result of genetic engineering by ancient races, races that the Council has been hiding evidence of for millennia. Everything we've achieved, our rapid advancement, our adaptability, it's all by design. An interesting theory, a new voice echoed through the chamber. Yaris stepped out of the shadows, his massive form somehow more imposing in the dark space. But ultimately irrelevant. The Edge worlds will remain sealed, and your evidence will never reach the Council. The hybrid beings turned to face the Darrow leader, their forms becoming more solid, more threatening. You exceed your authority, Yaris. This was not part of our arrangement. Plans change, Yaris smiled, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. Did you really think I would allow your abominations to access the Edge world technologies? You were useful tools, nothing more. Your very existence is an affront to the natural order. Mark's mind raced through scenarios, calculating odds and possibilities. The hybrids were clearly more advanced than anything he had encountered, but Yaris's confidence suggested he had an ace up his sleeve. And Sarah. Sarah still clutched the quantum storage device, her expression suggesting she had her own plans. The station shuddered as another explosion rocked the upper levels. But this one was different, more powerful, more focused. Mark's sensors detected a massive energy surge building in the quantum core behind them. You're all so focused on your grand conspiracies, Sarah said quietly, that you've missed what's been happening right in front of you. The Edge worlds aren't just a repository of ancient technology, they're a test. And humanity just passed. She held up the quantum storage device, and Mark's neural implant suddenly registered something impossible. The device wasn't just storing data, it was containing a quantum singularity, a miniature version of the same technology that powered the station. The ancient races didn't just engineer us, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. They left us a legacy, encoded in our very DNA. The Edge worlds aren't sealed to protect us from their technology, they're sealed to protect the galaxy from us until we were ready. The hybrid beings moved to stop her, but they were too late. Sarah activated the device, and reality itself seemed to bend. Energy cascaded through the chamber in waves of impossible color, and Mark's enhanced senses detected something emerging from the quantum fluctuations, ships, thousands of them, appearing in space around the station. Earth Defense Fleet, this is Ambassador Chen, Sarah spoke into her communicator, her voice ringing with authority. Execute Protocol Prometheus. Authorization Code, Rising Phoenix. Mark's neural implant connected to the fleet's command network, and what he saw took his breath away. The ships weren't just advanced, they represented technology that surpassed anything the Council races possessed. Earth hadn't been developing in isolation, they had been secretly reclaiming their heritage, preparing for this moment. You see, Yaris, Sarah turned to the Darrow leader, whose confidence had evaporated. Humanity didn't need to prove itself to the Council. We needed to prove ourselves worthy of our ancestors' legacy. And your conspiracy gave us the perfect opportunity to do just that. The hybrid beings began to dissolve, their impossible forms unable to maintain cohesion in the presence of the quantum energies Sarah had unleashed. Yaris backed away, his personal shields flaring as they tried to protect him from the cascading waves of power. "Mark," Sarah called out, tossing him a small device. "I think it's time we showed the Council exactly what humanity is capable of." As he caught the device, Mark finally understood. Every mission, every diplomatic meeting, every careful manipulation, it had all been building to this moment. Earth hadn't been the victim of a conspiracy, they had been orchestrating events from the beginning, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their place among the stars. The station's quantum core pulsed with new energy as the ancient technologies integrated with its systems. Above them, the council chambers would be witnessing humanity's true emergence onto the galactic stage. There would be fear, resistance, and probably conflict, but there would also be opportunity for growth, for advancement, for all species to move forward together. Mark activated the device Sarah had given him, and felt knowledge flooding into his neural implant, the true history of humanity, the legacy of the ancient races, and the path forward that they had planned for so long. "Well," he said, allowing himself a small smile as the station transformed around them, "I guess Earth's diplomatic position just got a lot stronger." Sarah nodded, watching as Yaris and his conspirators were taken into custody by forces they had never imagined humanity could command. "This isn't an ending, Mark. It's a beginning. The real question is, what will we do with our inheritance?" As the dust settled and the galaxy tried to come to terms with humanity's revelation, Mark knew that his role as Earth's covert operative wasn't ending, it was evolving. There would be new challenges, new threats, and new opportunities. But for the first time, humanity would be facing them not as supplicants to the Council, but as the inheritors of a legacy that would reshape the future of all species. The game had changed, and the galaxy would never be the same.